They messed with the wrong girl. Now her brother makes them pay. Maya Delacroix clutched her backpack as she navigated Riverside High School's crowded hallways. At 15, she was petite, barely 5 feet 2 inches, with dark curly hair, in a simple ponytail. Her oversized sweater hung loosely on her small frame, and thick-rimmed glasses made her look younger. Maya had attended Riverside for 3 months since moving from Montreal, and her quiet nature with slight French accent made her an easy target. "Just keep your head down and get through the day," she told herself. Maya was naturally shy, preferring books to people, and the transition to this large American high school was overwhelming. She missed Montreal, where she had close friends and appreciative teachers. Here she felt invisible, except when she wished she actually was. Derek Thornfield ruled the junior class with an iron fist. Tall and broad-shouldered at 17, he had sandy brown hair and confident swagger from being the star linebacker. His crew consisted of Jake Morrison, a lanky redhead with a mean streak, and Brad Kellner, whose stocky build and permanent sneer made him perpetually angry. They had noticed Maya immediately and pegged her as an easy target. Well, look who's trying to sneak by." Derek's voice boomed near the lockers. Maya's stomach dropped. She quickened her pace toward chemistry class, but Jake blocked her path. "Where are you going so fast, Mouse?" Derek had given her that nickname after hearing her quiet voice during attendance. The name stuck, and now half the school called her that. "Didn't your mama teach you manners?" Maya's face flushed red. "I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get to class." "On time." Her accent made the words sound timid. "She's sorry, guys," Brad laughed, mimicking her pronunciation. "So polite. What they teach you in Canada, Mouse, how to be a doormat." Students streamed past, most averting their eyes. Maya learned that Riverside operated on strict social hierarchy, and nobody wanted Derek's attention by defending someone. At the bottom, even Mrs. Patterson monitoring the halls had mysteriously disappeared when she saw the confrontation brewing. "Why don't I just tell Antoine?" Maya thought. Her older brother was 19 and worked construction after graduating early. She had seen him lift steel beams that took 2 other men to carry, his arms corded with muscle from years of hard labor. But Antoine already worked. Double shifts to help pay for her school supplies and their mother's medical bills. She didn't want to burden him with her problems. "Leave me alone, please," Maya whispered, trying to step around Jake. "Leave me alone, please," Jake mimicked, in a high-pitched voice causing nearby students to snicker. "What's the magic word, Mouse?" Maya's hands trembled as she gripped her backpack straps. She had martial arts training back in Montreal, but her sensei emphasized fighting was the last resort. Besides, these boys were much bigger, and causing trouble might get her suspended. Her family couldn't afford problems that might jeopardize her education. Derek stepped closer, and Maya smelled his aggressive cologne mixed with protein shakes he constantly drank. "I think Mouse needs to learn some respect. What do you think, boys?" Before Maya could react, Derek grabbed her backpack and yanked it off her shoulders. Contents spilled across the hallway floor: textbooks, notebooks, pens, and carefully completed chemistry homework scattered everywhere. Students stepped over her belongings, and Maya felt tears prick her eyes watching a week's worth of work get trampled. "Oops," Derek said with mock sincerity. "Butterfingers." Maya dropped to her knees, frantically gathering papers, many now torn or dirty with footprints. The 5-minute warning bell rang, meaning she'd be late even if she ran. Mr. Rodriguez had already warned that tardiness resulted in detention. "This is pathetic," Brad commented, as Maya crawled, collecting scattered belongings. "Look at her scrambling around like a little mouse. That's why the name fits perfectly." Jake kicked one notebook further down the hall, and Maya had to chase it. By the time she gathered everything, the hallway was nearly empty, and the final bell was ringing. She arrived at chemistry 3 minutes late, face flushed and hair disheveled, earning Mr. Rodriguez's disapproving look and classmates' snickers. "Just 8 more months," Maya told herself, sliding into her back seat. 8 more months until graduation, then college somewhere far from here. This pattern continued for weeks. Derek's crew would find her in the cafeteria, making loud comments about her appearance while she ate alone. They'd accidentally bump into her in hallways, causing dropped books. In gym class, they ensured she was picked last for teams. Then Jake would throw volleyballs at her head during games, claiming accidents when Coach Williams wasn't looking. Maya developed avoidance strategies. She learned their schedules and took alternate routes between classes. She started eating lunch in the library instead of the cafeteria. She even changed her locker to the opposite side of school, but Riverside wasn't that big, and they always found her eventually. The worst incident happened on a rainy Thursday in the courtyard outside the main building. Maya was walking to her next class when Derek and his friends surrounded her near bike racks. The courtyard was mostly empty due to weather, with only a few students hurrying between buildings with heads down against rain. "Hey, Mouse," Derek called out, his voice carrying that familiar, cruel undertone. "We've been thinking about you." Maya's pulse quickened. She clutched her books closer and looked for escape routes, but they had positioned themselves strategically to block all exits. "Yeah," Jake added, stepping closer. "We've been wondering something. You're always so quiet, so scared. What are you hiding under all those baggy clothes?" Maya's eyes widened in alarm as she realized where this was heading. "Please just leave me alone. I haven't done anything to you." "That's the problem," Brad said with a nasty grin. "You think you're too good to talk to us, too good to be friendly. Maybe we need to help you be more social." Before Maya could react, Derek lunged forward and grabbed the hem of her long skirt. "Let's see what Mouse is hiding under here." "No," Maya screamed, backing away frantically. "Don't touch me." Jake moved to grab her arms while Derek tugged at her skirt, trying to lift it up. Maya twisted and fought, textbooks scattering on wet pavement as she desperately tried to escape. The humiliation was overwhelming. Not just the physical violation, but that other students could see this happening and were doing nothing to help. "Stop it!" Maya's voice cracked as she continued struggling. "Someone help me!" A few students had gathered to watch, but they stood at safe distance, some even pulling out phones to record. Maya felt completely helpless as Derek's grip on her skirt tightened and Jake's hands pinned her arms. The rain made everything slippery, and she nearly fell trying to break free. "Come on, Mouse," Derek taunted. "Don't be so uptight. We're just trying to be friendly." Maya's vision blurred with tears of rage and humiliation. These boys thought they could treat her like this because she was small, quiet, because she had no one to protect her. The injustice filled her with fury she had never experienced before. "I said stop." Maya's voice rang across the courtyard with such force that Derek actually paused, surprised by the intensity in her tone. "Ooh, Mouse has claws," Brad laughed. "This is getting interesting." But Maya had reached her breaking point. Every day of torment, every humiliation, every moment of feeling powerless crystallized into pure determination. They wanted to see what she was hiding. Fine. They were about to find out exactly who they were messing with. That evening, Maya sat at the kitchen table in their small apartment, staring at homework, but unable to concentrate. Her mother was working a late shift at the hospital where she cleaned rooms, and Antoine was in the shower after another long construction day. Maya's skirt was torn from Derek's grabbing, and she had hidden it in her laundry basket, so her family wouldn't see and ask questions. She could hear Antoine humming an old French song their father used to sing, and the familiar tune made her chest tighten with emotion. Antoine had basically raised her after their father died in a car accident 3 years ago. He had given up his college dreams to work full-time and support the family, never once complaining about the sacrifice. Maya touched the bruises on her arms where Jake had grabbed her, hidden now under long sleeves. "I can't keep letting this happen," she thought. "They're getting worse and eventually they're going to seriously hurt me." When Antoine emerged from the bathroom, his dark hair still damp and wearing a worn t-shirt that showed the results of his physical labor, Maya made her decision. "Antoine," she said quietly, "I need to tell you something." Her brother immediately noticed the serious tone and sat across from her at the table. "What's wrong, little sister? You look upset." Maya took a deep breath and told him everything, about Derek and his friends, about the constant harassment, about how they had tried to humiliate her earlier that day. As she spoke, she watched Antoine's expression grow darker. His hands, scarred from years of construction work, slowly clenched into fists on the table. "They put their hands on you?" Antoine's voice was deadly quiet, and Maya realized she had never seen her brother truly angry before. There was something frightening and powerful in his stillness. "It's okay," Maya said quickly, suddenly worried she had made a mistake. "I got away. I just thought you should know because—" "Non," Antoine interrupted, his accent thickening the way it always did when he was emotional. "This is not okay. Nobody touches my sister. Nobody." Maya had always known her brother was strong, but she had never seen him like this. Antoine worked construction with men twice his size, and he had earned their respect through sheer determination and physical capability. At 19, he had the build of someone much older, with broad shoulders and arms that could bend steel, pipes. His co-workers called him the Hammer because of his ability to drive stakes into frozen ground that other men couldn't budge. "What are you going to do?" Maya asked, suddenly feeling a mix of relief and concern. Antoine stood and walked to the window, looking out at the dark street. "I'm going to have a conversation with these boys, a very clear conversation about what happens to people who touch my family." The next morning, Maya felt different walking through Riverside High School's halls. For the first time in months, she wasn't constantly looking over her shoulder or planning escape routes. She knew Antoine was somewhere in the building, having taken the day off work for the first time since she could remember. Derek and his crew found her at her locker during lunch period, just as they always did. But this time Maya didn't flinch when she heard Derek's voice behind her. Well, if it isn't our favorite little mouse," Derek said, his voice carrying that familiar, cruel amusement. "You've been avoiding us lately. That's not very friendly." Maya slowly closed her locker and turned to face them. There was something different in her posture, a straightness to her spine that hadn't been there before. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," she said quietly. Derek laughed, genuinely amused. "You're not afraid? Mouse, you're like a quarter our size. What are you going to do, squeak at us?" "Yeah," Jake added, moving closer. "Maybe we need to finish what we started yesterday. Remind you of your place." Brad reached out to grab Maya's arm, but before his hand could make contact, a voice cut through the hallway like a knife. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." Every head in the hallway turned toward the source of the voice. Antoine Delacroix stood at the end of the corridor, and even from a distance his presence was commanding. He wore dark jeans and a black t-shirt that emphasized his muscular build, and his work boots clicked ominously on the linoleum floor as he walked toward them. Derek's confidence wavered for a moment as he took in Antoine's size and obvious physical strength, but his pride wouldn't let him back down in front of his friends and the gathering crowd of students. "Who the hell are you?" Derek demanded, puffing out his chest. "This is a private conversation." Antoine continued walking until he was standing directly in front of Derek, and the difference in their builds was immediately apparent. While Derek was tall for a high school student, Antoine was a full-grown man who spent his days doing physical labor. His shoulders were broader, his arms were thicker, and there was quiet intensity in his dark eyes that made several students take an instinctive step backward. "I'm Maya's brother," Antoine said, in a voice that was perfectly calm but somehow more threatening than if he had been shouting. "And I understand you boys have been bothering my little sister." Jake laughed nervously. "Bothering? We're just having fun with Mouse here. No big deal." Antoine's gaze shifted to Jake, and the laughter died in the boy's throat. "Fun?" Antoine repeated. "You call putting your hands on a girl fun?" "Look, man," Derek said, trying to regain control of the situation. "This is between us and your sister. You need to mind your own business." The words were barely out of Derek's mouth when Antoine moved. Maya had never seen her brother fight before, but she realized he must have learned more than just construction, skills from his co-workers. His right hand shot out and grabbed Derek by the front of his shirt, lifting the boy slightly off his feet with seemingly no effort. "My sister is my business," Antoine said quietly, "and you just made yourself my business." "Too." Derek's face went red as he tried to break free from Antoine's grip, but the older boy's strength was overwhelming. Students were pulling out their phones, but none of them were laughing now. The hallway had gone completely silent, except for Derek struggling. "Let go of me," Derek gasped. "You can't do this. I'll get you arrested." Antoine's expression didn't change. "You want to call the police? Good. We can explain to them how you and your friends sexually assaulted my 15-year-old sister yesterday." Derek's face went pale as he realized the legal implications of what he had done. "That wasn't... We were just playing around." "Playing around?" Antoine's voice was still deadly calm. "Is that what you call trying to lift up a girl's skirt against her will?" Jake and Brad had backed away several feet, clearly wanting no part of this confrontation. The crowd of students continued to grow, but now they were murmuring among themselves about what Derek had done to Maya. The story was spreading through the hallway like wildfire. Antoine released Derek's shirt but didn't step back, keeping the boy trapped between himself and the lockers. "Here's what's going to happen," he said in a voice that carried clearly through the silent hallway. "You and your friends are going to leave my sister alone, completely alone. You're not going to talk to her, look at her, or even think about her. Do you understand?" Derek nodded quickly, his earlier bravado completely gone. The other students were looking at him with disgust rather than admiration, and Maya realized that Antoine had done more than just protect her. He had exposed Derek's true nature to the entire school. "I can't hear you," Antoine said. "Yes," Derek whispered. "Yes, I understand." "Good." Antoine finally stepped back, but his presence still dominated the hallway. "Because if I hear that you've so much as looked at Maya wrong, I'll be back. And next time, we won't just be talking." Jake cleared his throat nervously. "We get it." "Man, we'll leave her alone." Antoine turned his attention to Jake and Brad, and both boys visibly flinched. "You two were there yesterday. You watched your friend assault my sister and did nothing to stop it. That makes you just as guilty." "We're sorry," Brad stammered. We didn't mean for things to go that far." "You didn't mean it?" Antoine's voice carried a note of incredulous anger. "You held her arms while he tried to humiliate her, and you didn't mean it." Maya watched in amazement as her tormentors crumbled under her brother's quiet fury. These boys who had seemed so powerful and intimidating now looked like what they really were, scared children who had been picking on someone they thought couldn't fight back. "Here's what you're going to do," Antoine continued. "You're going to apologize to my sister, right now in front of everyone." Derek looked around at the crowd of students, many of whom had their phones out recording everything. His reputation as the tough guy was already destroyed, and Maya could see him calculating whether refusing would make things worse. "Maya," Derek said quietly, not meeting her eyes, "I'm sorry for what we did. It was wrong." "Louder," Antoine commanded, "and look at her when you apologize." Derek raised his head and looked directly at Maya. "I'm sorry," he said in a voice that carried through the hallway. "What we did was wrong, and it won't happen again." Jake and Brad followed with their own stammered apologies, their faces red with embarrassment and fear. Maya felt a surge of satisfaction as she realized that for the first time since starting at Riverside, she was the one with power in this situation. "And one more thing," Antoine said as he prepared to leave. "If I find out that anyone in this school is giving my sister trouble, I'll hold all three of you responsible. Spread the word." With that, Antoine turned and walked away, his work boots clicking authoritatively on the linoleum floor. The crowd of students parted like water before him, and Maya heard whispered conversations beginning as he disappeared around the corner. Derek and his friends slunk away in the opposite direction, their heads down and their earlier swagger completely gone. Maya stood by her locker, still processing what had just happened, when she realized that several students were looking at her with something she had never seen before: respect. Maya, a girl from her chemistry class, approached hesitantly. "I'm Jennifer. I just wanted to say I'm really sorry about what they did to you, and I'm glad your brother stood up for you like that." More students approached throughout the day, some apologizing for not helping her before, others simply acknowledging her with newfound respect. Maya realized that Antoine hadn't just protected her from Derek and his friends, he had completely changed her status at Riverside High School. At lunch, instead of eating alone in the library, Maya sat in the cafeteria for the first time in months. Derek, Jake, and Brad were at their usual table across the room, but they carefully avoided looking in her direction. Their conversations were quieter now, and Maya noticed that other students were giving them a wide berth. When Maya got home that evening, she found Antoine in the kitchen making dinner for their mother's return from work. He looked up when she entered, and his expression was gentle again, all traces of the intimidating figure from the hallway gone. "How was the rest of your day, little sister?" he asked, stirring a pot of soup on the stove. Maya hugged him tightly, suddenly overwhelmed with gratitude and love for her brother. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for protecting me." Antoine hugged her back, and Maya could feel the strength in his arms that had made Derek look like a child. "You never have to thank me for that," he said. "Family protects family. That's how it works." "I should have told you sooner," Maya said. "I didn't want to burden you with my problems." Antoine pulled back and looked at her seriously. "Maya, you are never a burden. You're my sister, and you're the most important thing in my life. Don't ever be afraid to tell me when someone is hurting you." As the weeks passed, Maya's life at Riverside High School transformed completely. Derek and his friends kept their distance, and their own reputation had suffered significantly after word spread about what they had tried to do to her. Other students who had previously ignored Maya now included her in conversations and group projects. Maya began eating lunch with Jennifer and a small group of girls from her classes. She joined the debate team, where her intelligence and preparation made her a valuable member. Teachers who had barely noticed her before began calling on her more often, recognizing that her quiet nature didn't mean she lacked knowledge or opinions. Derek's behavior changed too, but not in the way Maya had expected. Rather than becoming more aggressive or seeking revenge, he seemed genuinely chastened by the experience. Maya overheard him telling Jake to leave a younger student alone one day, and she realized that perhaps being confronted by Antoine had taught him something about the consequences of bullying. One afternoon, about a month after the confrontation, Derek approached Maya at her locker. She tensed instinctively, but his demeanor was completely different from before. "Maya," he said quietly, glancing around to make sure they weren't being overheard, "I wanted to talk to you, alone." Maya studied, his face looking for signs of the cruel boy who had tormented her, but all she saw was genuine remorse. "What do you want, Derek?" "I wanted to apologize again," he said, Really apologize, not just because your brother made me. What we did to you was horrible, and I've been thinking about it a lot. Maya was surprised by the sincerity in his voice. Okay, she said carefully. I don't expect you to forgive me, Derek continued, but I wanted you to know that I understand now how wrong we were. My little sister is starting high school next year, and the thought of someone treating her the way we treated you, he shook his head. It makes me sick. Maya felt some of the anger she had been carrying begin to dissolve. Why did you do it? She asked. Why did you pick on me? Derek was quiet for a long moment. Because I could, he said finally. Because you were small and quiet and I thought you wouldn't fight back. It made me feel powerful. He met her eyes. But real power isn't about hurting people who can't defend themselves. Your brother taught me that. Maya nodded slowly. Thank you for saying that. Derek started to walk away, then turned back. For what it's worth, you're a lot braver than I gave you credit for. It takes courage to keep coming to school every day when people are treating you like that. As Maya watched Derek walk away, she reflected on how much had changed since that terrible day in the courtyard. She wasn't the same frightened girl who had started at Riverside High School. Standing up for herself with Antoine's help had awakened something inside her, a sense of her own worth and strength. That evening, Maya sat with Antoine on the small balcony of their apartment, watching the sun set over their neighborhood. Her brother was reading a community college brochure, and Maya felt warm pride knowing that he was finally pursuing his own dreams again. Antoine, she said, do you ever regret not going to college right away, because of me and Mama? Antoine looked up from the brochure and smiled. Never, he said firmly. You and Mama are my priority. College will still be there when I'm ready for it. Maya leaned against her brother's shoulder, feeling safe and protected in a way she hadn't experienced since their father died. I love you, she said simply. I love you too, little sister, Antoine replied, wrapping an arm around her. And I'm proud of you for how you handled everything at school. You're stronger than you know. Maya smiled, thinking about the debate tournament next week and the new friends she had made. Derek and his crew were no longer a threat, and she had learned that sometimes standing up for yourself meant knowing when to ask for help from the people who loved you. Family protects family, she thought, echoing Antoine's words. That's how it works. The next morning, Maya walked through the halls of Riverside High School with her head held high, no longer the frightened mouse she had once been. She had learned that real strength came not just from being able to fight, but from knowing when to fight and when to seek help from those who could fight for you. As she passed the spot where Derek had first cornered her, Maya felt no fear, only gratitude for the brother who had taught her that she was worth protecting and the knowledge that she would never let